of Fairfax County.
No.
You're either in the central Fairfax County, Fairfax, Burke, Springfield.
Right.
There's a whole different policing than down Richmond Highway.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say
Bailey's Crossroads.
Prince William County, same thing.
It's a whole, Loudoun County. If you go, if you're in Ashburn, it's a whole different.
Sterling.
It's a whole different policing department than Sterling.
or Reston.
So
My latte is not hot enough, officer. Do something.
that to me, and you said, and it's so crazy that you say that in jest, because it is really, you get a whole different approach to policing depending on where you are.
So where are all the Karens at then, Pat? Where would you say that?
They in Fairfax. It's there.
Western Loudoun County.
They're in Reston Town Center
Sorry.
getting their lattes right now.
Aldi,
We're
Virginia.
gonna get some hate mail.
We'll even break that down even more and have it even be more specific to DC. There are different demographics in DC. The way you police on this side of town, and we're just going to keep it to here, DC, because I'm a DC police officer. The way policing is done in one part of the city might be different from the way policing is done in another part of the city, simply because of the demographics, simply because of the crime needs. The neighborhood has this problem. Other neighborhoods don't have that problem. So you do have to change your tactics based on the police. Now, I can't speak to Fairfax and Reston and how they do things. I hear a little bit about. I stay out of Virginia.
Like southeast.
It's a whole different ballgame, baby.
Where the Navy
It's
Yard
funny.
used to be,
It's
where
a whole-
tracks used to be.
Even the
right?
police won't even go across the bridge. Even the police don't want to go across that
the
bridge.
police don't want to come across.
My
I
God,
stay out of VA.
Wow.
Even the police
Didn't we
won't
just say
even.
that?
Even the police. We said that in our criminal
Well,
justice.
let me
They don't
say
want to
why.
cross. They don't
Let me say
want.
why. I stay out of VA because they don't have the same amount of problems that we have. So they look.
They make
for-
something.
they look-
Like
they
my
look-
Easy
they look for
Pass
problems.
pullover. I got pulled over for my Easy Pass in Virginia.
Patricia was just telling us a story about a traffic stop that was done because her sensor on her Easy Pass was in the wrong position. We don't have time for that.
You ain't got time
I'm
for
like,
that.
isn't there real crime, officer?
So
Yeah.
don't ever say that. by the
No,
way.
he
Don't
was
ever
very
say-
nice. I was nice.
No,
Everybody
that's
was
to the
very
listeners.
nice.
Don't ever say you don't have anything better to
Very
do.
nice.
So that's
No,
those are very.
I know better from
triggering.
you how to
So-
act.
I taught you.
That's where the respect comes in, right?
So you're in a more in DC. It's a higher crime area, right?
So let me get a little bit about, since you asked that question about my background in policing and specifically in DC. I started off as an officer, and Patricia kind of talked about it, an officer in the 3rd District, which you live in now. And 3rd District is very diverse. You have Hispanic community, all different ethnicities. I went from the 3rd District to the 5th District, which is northeast. I had the Gallaudet, Trinidad area. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with that, but it's predominantly black area. Benning Road area.
A little bit.
From 5th District, I was transferred to the 1st District substation, which is Capitol Hill, Eastern Market. And then a few times I've been to the main station, which is 1st District, and then Southwest DC, down by the Navy Yard, where the Nationals stadium is. And now I'm back at the substation now. So all of these, and I say all that because all of these different places require different types of policing, which you would think policing would be the same regardless of where you go, but it's not. And you have to change your tactics based on where you're policing, the area.
Well, the Navy Yard just changed, right? Your tactics had to go from left to right
That's
in the
just
Navy
said
Yard,
that,
right?
the tracks days, Kilimanjaros.
It has, but if you go back to what I said from the very beginning, I treat everyone with respect until you give me a reason not to. Because it doesn't matter where I'm policing, whether it's Capitol Hill, whether it's Eastern Market, whether it's the 5th District, whether it's the 1st District. I'm still going to come at you the way I want you to come at me. I'm going to talk to you the way I want you to talk to me.
So what part of your tactics shift? Like, if you can give an example of, say, and again, I know you've been there many years, so what my neighborhood is now versus what it was, and in fact what it's kind of gone back to, because now there's trash all over the street that was not there a few years ago. But
talk to your local government.
Your latte's getting cold again.
Yeah.
I know people need to not throw their ice cream wrappers on the street. But no, seriously, like, the neighborhoods have changed over time, like you said, but if you can give one example of maybe, yes, you're going in with respect, but there's a shift in tactics. Like, is it maybe a place where you might be calling in people to back up sooner than maybe another place because you're not sure what you're walking into, where you might be more sure in one neighborhood than another. That kind of, I don't know. I'm just asking, what tactics?
I wouldn't change. Now, you should always be aware of your surroundings. That's just policing 101. But I'm not gonna change my policing based on the neighborhood that I'm in, like how I treat the people, my tactics. I'm gonna still now. And it's difficult to answer that question because every situation is different. If I have a group of people who are hanging out and I need them to move on because people are calling, complaining, hey, these guys are selling drugs. Am I going to approach them by myself? Probably not a good idea. If I know them and I have, that's your beat integrity. That's you're familiar with your area, your neighborhood. They know you, you know them. But we can get into that a little bit more. But you deal with every situation as it comes. So it's kind of hard. What will be a situation? What would be an example? It's kind of hard to say because every example can be completely different. You may need 2 officers. You may need 10. You may not need any. So it just varies.
I was going to ask, like, it's interesting you said tactics, but would it be more wise, more
accurate
to say you change your mindset depending on the area you're policing or the whatever you're state?
Yeah, I mean, let's not pretend that there are certain areas that are bad that are worse than others. If I go to Potomac Gardens, no offense to anyone who lives in Potomac Gardens, but let's just be real. If you look at the crime stats, a lot of violence, a lot of things happen in Potomac Gardens. Am I going to go to Potomac Gardens by myself to a call? No, I'm not. That's just not smart. Also the time of day of policing changes things.
Yeah.
You have different elements when you're working at nighttime that you don't have to deal with during the daytime. I mean, you can see things more. Working the evening shift, they don't deal with the same things that the day shift deals with. The day shift doesn't deal with the same thing that the midnight shift deals with. So when you talk about tactics, you talk about how you approach things. It could vary. It all changes.
How does that rotation happen in the police department as far as what shifts you work?
We do permanent shifts. So either you're on day work, you're on evenings, or you're on midnights, and usually it's by choice and seniority. So,
seniority.
Yeah.
So the
union seniority.
The day shifters are dealing with lightweight.
Officer,
my dog is down the street.
Well, the police have a union.
It's funny. It's very funny. It's very funny about that union thing. You can tell that seniority thing, but damn, you've been 30 years, 20 years, 20, 25, 30. And then get to the midnight to 7 a.m.
5 years out of
you
police
worked midnights a lot though. A lot.
I was on midnights for 14 years.
Yeah.
Haran asked a question about a union. So officers and sergeants are in the union. Once you're lieutenant and above, you're out of the union. You do have rights, but it's more of a legal representation.
Legal, yeah.
So and they give them that once you get above the rank of lieutenant.
So do you? Personal question.
Sure.
Do officers fear for their life when they go out?
They should. Yeah.
It's a healthy fear, right?
You would be ignorant and let's just be honest. It would be just plain stupid if you don't think that you can go to work and you won't die that day. And I'm not saying it's a healthy fear. I'm not saying you should go to work and be scared. And there are people that go to work and that are scared. And I'm not going to sit here and say I haven't been in scary situations. I can tell stories until midnight about the scary situations that I've been in. But it is a healthy fear that keeps you from using bad tactics. I'm a sergeant, so I'm always preaching to my officers. We do a roll call, and during that time we give them their assignments. We talk about any crime issues that need to be discussed. We talk about what happened on the previous shift. We talk about current events. What are other departments doing? I show. It's called police activity, and it's no secret. You can find this on YouTube. They show body-worn camera footage from police officers from other agencies all across the nation, and a lot of them are shootings. Sometimes it's a positive interaction. Most of the time it's neck. And I show this as training as to what could they have done better? What did they do right? What can we do better? What would you do if you were in this situation? And I get them thinking. I try to get them prepared as best as I can before they hit the streets. Because I tell them when we watch these videos, everyone who's in this video, when they went to work that day, they did not think that was going to happen.
Nope.
Everyone who goes to work as a police officer you have no idea what your day is going to be like. You could have I've had boring days where I do absolutely nothing and I'm on YouTube watching videos, and then I've had days where the lights and sirens never stop. So it could change. So
all right, question from some of our audience. How do you speak to young family members, your young family members, or other family members that you may know about how to conduct themselves around the police?
I don't have that many young family members, but I do have civilian friends, and I have told them, if you get pulled over, and I want everyone to take notes from this. If you get pulled over by a police officer in any jurisdiction or whatever, first thing you do, put your hands on the steering wheel. Don't reach for your license. Don't reach for your registration. Don't reach for anything. And if anything, and Keith was telling a story about his windows. If you have tint on your windows, go ahead and roll your windows down so the officer can see it's just you or who's in the car when they make the approach. So I cooperate, be respectful. Don't get into an argument. Don't become a street lawyer, debating whether or not you should have a ticket or you should not get a ticket or whatever the case would be. Being cooperative is probably the biggest thing that you can do. Being cooperative and being respectful is one of the biggest things you can do to have a positive interaction with the police officer. And I try to encourage not just family members, but civilian friends. Anyone who, oh, you're a police officer? Oh, yep. If you get pulled over, cooperate.
Is it annoying as hell when citizens try to be roadside lawyers?
It is, yeah, of course, because they try to tell you your job, and a lot of times they use verbiage that is wrong. Or
they've been watching a lot of Law and Order.
Dong dong.
My mom told me a story where she pulled a guy over and he said, "I know my constipation all right." And you get people like that. You get people like that who really think that they know the law, and they're quoting stuff that they think they heard.
How do you not laugh at this dude, man?
And
she should have let him go because of that.
I mean, that's what we deal with. And this was in her time of policing, and I've had similar situations where they've just been loud and wrong. And it's like, dude, I know my job. You don't have to. When you need to do this, and I pay your, no, you don't pay my salary.
Oh, I pay your salary.
So I have
that's always fun.
I've always thought about. Go ahead.
No, so can I rephrase? Can I rework your question? Because I've talked about it before with all y'all on other podcasts. I'm gonna definitely try to stay non-emotional here because I got my.
Gabby!
One third of my world and my better half over here.
Say hi to us, Gabby.
Hi.
Speaking to the mic.
Hi, I'm Gabby.
Yes, you are
our special guest, our other special guest.
Pat kind of touched on it a little bit. That's kind of a question, but I like to expand on it a little bit. I remember my dad sitting me down and having what you just said. Mm-hmm. But having that, we call it, every black family calls it the talk.
The talk.
Yeah.
The talk.
Right.
The talk.
And honestly, I've said this to all of them before. I never thought about having kids, man. My wife, she tricked me. I'm just playing. But they're my world, Right. And I dread it. I still dread. I've had pieces of the talk with her. Uh-huh. So this is my rule follower. I don't have to. She's nothing like her father, thank God.
She looked just like you, so.
But as a black man, as a officer,
right,
and in this, we're still in 2023, and we're still black families. Hell, I'm not
still
even sure.
Have to have this conversation.
Yeah. How does that make you feel? Or two, how with your own children, how would you go about that talk like you just did?
Right.
Which is essentially it all boils down to exactly what you just said.
Right.
But I guess it's because they're our family members, we kind of get more emotional about it. But please answer this, please.
No, it is definitely frustrating. I mean, I've been pulled over, but I mean, I know how to behave and I know how to conduct myself because I am a police officer. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, it's frustrating. I mean, we're in 2023 and we still have to have this conversation. Right. But this is the reality of the world that we live in. And rather than have an unfortunate incident, I'd rather have this uncomfortable conversation with not just my family, right. any family, right. And I've gone to junior high schools, as a police officer, as a sergeant. I've talked to the kids that were there and tried to educate them a little bit and tried to tell them how to, and they asked kind of similar questions. Well, what about this and what about, and they get very specific about, well, what about my cousin? Yes. I'm like, I don't know about JoJo or
little
whatever.
Little baby and them, they on their own.
I don't know what happened with that, but I try to, give them some knowledge and of how to behave and how to, again, conduct yourself. And yeah, it is unfortunate that we're still having these conversations in 2023, but that is the reality of the world that we're living in, and what can be done to change it. Honestly, I don't know.
No, you're right. No,
I don't.
I'm kind of hoping what you were speaking on that the able thing. I'm definitely going to look further than that. I mean, the only thing we can do is hope and teach the kids. Yeah. The only thing we do is hope that eventually we'll. Hopefully, the what is that old saying? The who's watching the watchers.
Yeah. I'm sure probably the talk is probably a little different depending on where you live, right? Absolutely. If you live down south in say Alabama or Mississippi, right?
Oh,
that
of
talk
course.
is going to be totally different.
I remember.
Tony, hold on a second. Tony has something.
So my question is kind of like a follow up from Keith's.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like now, yes, it's 2023. We're still having this talk conversation with our families, being people of color, but I feel like now we're having to have the talk about our own people, not just the police, but the police that are the same color we are. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm going to dovetail that real quick because that was my next question.
Oh, sorry.
So, comment on what Tanya says. When you go out and you're driving around in Maryland and you get DWB'd, how the hell do you feel? And for the people who don't know what DWB is, all of our minority friends know what that's
blonde. No, I'm just kidding.
Driving while black
and blonde.
Well, you're in a special case, Tiny.
I know. She's got a double win.
So I have not been pulled over in a long time because I've got kids in the car now, so I don't drive as fast as I used to. But I did have a motorcycle, and Patricia knows this at one point, and I did get pulled over a lot on that. Now, being pulled over on a motorcycle and being pulled over in a car are two different things. But no, I mean, I feel but let's just go back and address that comment, driving while black. That is a stereotype, and I am a law enforcement officer telling you guys that is not always true. I'm not going to say that it's not true and that it has not happened. I'm not going to be naive and say that no one black driving a car that's nice, or the stereotype of, oh, wow, he probably shouldn't be in that car. That doesn't happen, or it has not happened. Yeah, of course it has happened. I'm not going to sit here and try to fool you guys. We all know that that's true. But the stereotype of driving while black is not nearly as prevalent as it used to be. The diversity of our department, and I can only speak to my department, is vast. And being a black officer pulling over, and what happens is your community is what you police. So if you're in a community full of black people, well, guess what? That's who's committing the crime. And if you're in a neighborhood that's full of white, well, you're going to be driving while white. So a traffic violation is a traffic violation regardless of who's behind the wheel. So, I mean, look, I just want to kind of defend law enforcement in that aspect, that it's not always driving while black. It's sometimes you just did something wrong.
And you may not even see the driver if they're speeding, right?
A lot of times you don't know who it is behind the wheel until you get up to the car.
So I'm going to caveat that statement by saying this. And look, man, I've been in D.C. I live in VA, but I used to live in D.C. Like D.C. was my nighttime house. Right?
Okay. We know.
Back in our backslide
back
days.
In my, you know what I mean? I used to. It's so funny going back to my days. I actually couldn't drive in D.C. during the day. Why? Because I couldn't see the landmarks. I couldn't see the landmarks. So I navigated D.C. at nighttime by landmarks. So anyway. But my experience about driving in D.C. versus driving in VA is just what you said.
Okay.
Driving in D.C., the cops got way more to worry about than me busting a Yui.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Changing the lane.
Right.
But trust me, not using my turn signal. The cops got way more to worry about. They're worrying about not getting shot, getting stabbed, or some drunk dude just doing what he does. So I would tell you, and I understand you want to back up your fellow police officers, but I will tell you right now, I live in VA, and I go to certain parts of VA that I know for a fact that when I'm driving around in Burke,
you better.
when I'm driving around in Centerville, I'm not really worried about being pulled over. But as soon as I go to Richmond Highway, I'm like this. I'm sitting up straight. 12 and 4. I know for a fact.
No hoodie.
No hoodie. No hoodie.
tie.
Because I know for a fact. If I go to
brother.
Bailey's Crossroads, if I go to Richmond Highway,
Shout out
I
to
know
Lacey.
for a fact. If I even remotely start changing the lane before my turn signal comes on, I'm gonna get
you. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is?
I don't know.
No. You. Why do you drive differently in one part of Virginia than you do? And
Because
and
I
again,
know
we're talking about a jurisdiction that I don't
yeah,
police
I know,
in,
I understand. But I you know what it is? I personally think that I have that anxiety. Okay, and it is a true anxiety. And actually, one of my questions.
Yeah.
It is a true anxiety because when I go to certain areas, I know I can lean back, rock back, and got my music loud as hell, and I'm not going to be bothered. But if I go down certain areas, if I go down Richmond Highway, if I go to Loudoun County and Sterling, I know for a fact that if I'm bumping my music
In your
it's
little
loud,
Mercedes, he has a Mercedes.
if I'm bumping it and look, my tint on my, and I'll tell you, I do what you said.
Okay.
Because my tint it's 0. I know for a fact I'm gonna get pulled over.
Okay.
My joint is straight illegal.
Right.
But I know for a fact that
Delete that.
Soon as I get pulled over, all 4 are coming down because they can't see in my car.
Right.
Okay.
I know.
Are you just sorry to interrupt you? Are you playing your music to a point where other people can hear it outside your car?
You're damn right.
Okay. Now,
Noise ordinance.
law enforcement.
Noise ordinance.
You know, there's a ticket for excessive noise. Did you know that?
Yeah, but
Now,
I'm telling you.
that can be enforced or cannot be enforced.
Right.
Now, is that being enforced in D.C. as much as it is in Fairfax or Loudoun or wherever they're?
I can tell you
it is
no
you're driving?
because every night by my house on 11th Street, sometimes like, is there a club outside? Like, what
So
just
do you
happened?
feel like the
So-
noise ordinance, like just by inventing the noise ordinance, was it targeted to a certain people for putting
There are certain communities that do not tolerate that shit. That's
But-
now where Patricia lives. It's probably more tolerant.
the funny thing-
Now,
We're down with that.
driving in Centerville or driving they don't want to hear that.
Well, here's the
shit.
thing of it, though.
That's the
That's
truth
funny.
of it,
That's funny you say that because, like Pat said, when Pat's bumping that music,
right?
I don't see like we all kind of grew up together, same falls
Right.
church.
Yeah, we did grow up together.
But
we did.
what I'm saying, we all had different experiences.
Oh.
When Pat or myself or Ron's bumping that music in Burke or in Centerville or that there might be that extra eye cast, right? But it's funny as hell now when I go around now. Like that was back when that music was prevalent just with us. That's what that where I was cast. But now I see Bob Miller's son driving his dad's Mercedes G-Wagon, blowing out the bass and
Lifts and offset.
and they just
But you have two demographics, right? You have in Richmond Highway, it's predominantly black, and then if you go to Loudoun County, it's like all white, right? So
Depending on which part of it.
there you go.
Which part.
Right.
There
The
you go.
Loudoun County is broken up.
Yeah, it
If
is.
you,
I
if
mean,
you
I work in Loudoun
because
County.
Yeah, but if you live in Ashburn, bro, it's all white people.
Right.
But if you go down to
City
Sterling,
to
if you
city.
go down to Sterling, it's
Reston.
everybody.
Right.
Hispanic.
It's Bailey's Crossroads. You know what I
Right.
mean? So,
Right.
but I don't know if you know this, but I think the best thing, and this has actually lowered my anxiety driving in VA. So Virginia legislator changed the first offense traffic stop law, where expired tags is not a first offense.
Right.
Changing lanes is a first without turn signal. That's a first offense. Having
Something dangling from the
mirror.
not a
Object,
first offense. A tint is no longer first offense, right?
Yeah.
So you get pulled over for a first offense. A first offense is speeding, improper change,
moving violation.
Yeah, a moving violation.
Right.
So when you get pulled over for a moving violation, then they hit you with all the other stuff they can hit you with. But by my anxiety, I'm not gonna lie, has been lowered. Yeah, I'll tell you this scenario. So I'm driving, and like I said, my car is tinted out black. Like you can't even see nothing in my car.
Why? Why is that? What are you hiding?
I'm
just kidding.
Me a Jamaican.
Here's from I
That's how they
if
roll.
you go in Jamaica, everybody in the intent plant, even the front window, you can't see it about this much. So anyway, I'm Jamaican, so that's just
we
that's
love
what
when
we
you
do.
do your Jamaican
That's
accent.
that's what we do.
I like it.
But I was driving I was going home, Braddock Road. Fairfax County was just chilling in the corner, right? He was just chilling on the side, just looking for somebody to pull over, right? So here comes my black ass, and I'm lean back. I drive like I'm 6'4". You know what I mean? I'm like you can barely see me in my car. So you can't in my car because my car is basically it's all limoed out. You can't actually see into the front. Like the windshield, you can't see me because everything is dark as hell.
Yeah.
So as soon as I pass this dude, I'm like,
he's coming.
So
I'm like, as soon as I pass him, I'm like, because I see him up there. I'm not speeding or nothing, and I see him up there, and I'm like,
if I saw Pat, if I was a police officer and I'm driving and I see Pat rolling down his windows, immediately I'm going to think, this guy is smoking weed in his car and he's trying to air it out. I'm going to pull him over to see.
I'm
gonna chime in, but after he
does that make sense?
So I passed him, right?
Chime in after.
So I passed him. It wasn't a DWB situation. I know that because he can't see me. He don't even know who it is.
Right.
So I passed him. As soon as I pass him, he rolls out. And then he comes behind me, and I'm keeping my 5 miles above speed limit.
That's it.
And I know he's running my license.
They've already
he's checking everything to see what he can pull me over for. I didn't have nothing, so he didn't pull me over. He just veered off and went about his way. But I'm gonna tell you right now, before that law changed, I would have got a ticket. 100% got a ticket. So no, that's why I say my anxiety level, because look, man, and Andre, you made a very, very good point. The idiots that get pulled over, DWBing, they're more than likely doing something stupid and they're breaking the law, but you just happen to be black and you're getting pulled over, but you feel like, hey, I'm going to complain that I'm driving. Hey, I know for a fact I got 0% tint. I know for a fact that if I drive in DC, I can get a ticket. If I drive in Maryland, I can get a ticket. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that's a first offense because it's the law in DC and it's the law in Maryland.
Right.
Having that tent is a first offense.
But if you roll down your windows, wouldn't that be like an admission of guilt?
No,
it's not.
It's not.
Okay, Andre, chime in on all this.
Well, I was going to say that people drive cars that some attract more attention than others. If you're driving in a car and you don't have a front tag and the officer pulls you over, you're like, I pulled you over because you don't have a front tag. Why? You're wrong.
Yeah.
You're wrong.
Yeah.
And the officer has a legal right to stop you and enforce the law, but people don't look at it. They look at the officer like, and I would love to dive in a little bit into these incidents that we talked about the Tyree
that's coming
incident, but accountability is what I'm trying to say. You have to be accountable for your actions. You have to be accountable for when you get behind the wheel of a car. Is your car legal? Is your license legal? Is your registration legal?
Yeah, you used to tell me this all the time. Like, you guys can pull us over technically for like not having both hands on the wheel, right? Like when people are putting stuff on and like.
That's failure to pay full time and a change.
Yeah. Like if I'm doing my mascara and
you're driving.
And texting and whatever, like I can get pulled over.
Texting and drive. That's a whole.
Where are y'all at on 495 when I go into Maryland every day and somebody is texting while driving? It drives me insane.
I'm in DC. I don't know where I am. I'm definitely on 495.
People are always going to be people. Like as far as like the make of the, you see it every day going into Maryland with the texting and the handheld devices.
Every day.
DC, same thing, handheld device.
Yeah.
People are going to be people until they get caught doing it. But like he said. Like
don't be surprised, right? Like I know when with my new car, I love it. It goes fast, and sometimes I've got the heads up display. So if I got pulled over, the officer would be like, "Okay, girl, new car, and maybe you're getting used to it, but there's your heads up display saying you're going 80,
right in front of you,
in a 55."
God,
and I know, and I'm
HUD.
prepared for that. And then I try to kind of watch it, but I think there's some things that
Tay-Tay.
You get in trouble for it.
I want a car with a HUD.
So Andre led us into this topic. So let's head into it, man.
Yeah.
what did Eric Garner do wrong?
What did what now?
Eric Garner in his situation.
Don't forget though. He says he doesn't watch his.
Give me
the brother,
background.
the guy in New York who was selling the loose cigarettes.
Oh, okay.
And was choked to death.
So let's.
Oh yeah, you took it way back. I thought we were going to Tyrese.
No, there's so many.
There's a few of them. Go ahead.
There is a list.
Yeah, there's a list.
There is a list, and I would like to address that's one of the reasons. I'm glad you guys have this platform, and I'm glad you invited me to talk about it. There is a common theme, and I'm thinking about what I wanted to say when I got here.
Right.
There is a common theme amongst a lot of these incidents that have happened where there's a black man dying or getting seriously hurt at the hands of the police, whether it be a black police officer, white police officer, whatever race. And that theme, and I want you all to hear me say, it is cooperation. A lot of these incidents could be avoided if the person cooperates. If they say, hey, we need you to put your hands behind. Well, why do I got to put my hands behind my back? Because we're asking you to. You're under arrest. Well, I'm not. And then you have a conflict. That conflict leads to someone getting hurt, someone getting killed. A lot of times, if you cooperate with the police, and I'm not saying in every single instance. I'm not saying that every situation that has happened, every historical event that has happened in this country is the result of lack of cooperation. But the majority of them, and this is from a law enforcement standpoint, because that's why I'm here, a lot of these situations could have been avoided had the person simply cooperated.
So I have a question.
Go ahead.
So I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you know this or not, but a few years ago, a young man that went to college with my daughter, he died on 95. Did you hear about that? He had a mental episode.
Okay, that's
and
another.
That's a whole different. That's why I wanted to bring this in.
Topic. Yeah.
So he was on 95. He had left school, and I don't know what happened, but anyway, he ended up getting killed on 95. You can Google it. But anyway,
By who? By the police?
yeah, and there was a video and everything. But anyway, like he had like some kind of mental illness. He got like naked or something, and he ended up getting killed.
Okay.
But so my question to you is, I understand. I absolutely agree. My dad was a auxiliary police officer for Fairfax County, so I totally understand the whole comply thing. My dad's always taught me that. But when people have a mental episode, I understand that you're coming on someplace without any context, right? So how do police officers assess situations? Because you can come into a situation where, like this young man was having an episode. You don't know that. You don't know him from a can of paint. So what is do they teach you anything so that you are able to assess these things? Because there are a lot of people, I think, that are ending up in a police death because of possible mental episodes that you don't have time to assess or don't know how to assess. You know what I'm saying?
Let me jump in there.
Sure.
Those two are completely different.
Yes, I understand.
Mental health issues and dealing with someone who's sane but resistant and uncooperative are completely
Absolutely.
different. I'll address your question because you asked it. We do have what's called crisis intervention officers who are specifically trained to deal with people in mental health crisis. They go to extensive training and they have retraining constantly of how to deal with mental health. We call them mental health consumers. Someone who has a mental health problem or is in an episode, as you said. We as officers also get this training, not as extensive as the crisis intervention officers, the CIO officers. So if we get on the scene of something and it appears that the person is having a mental episode, we'll request for a CIO officer to respond and interview and interact with that person because they have the training and the know-how of how to deal with that situation better than an average police officer. But the average police officer does have some mental health training. We do get that. And we are trained to recognize it. We're trained to be more patient, and sometimes the situation can be resolved peacefully. Sometimes it cannot, because you cannot be rational with an irrational person. You can't be logical with an illogical person, and sometimes it does lead to hands-on. Sometimes it leads to, I don't say violence, but sometimes it does lead to a conflict that is physical. So
what if a person has, like, let's say, for example, like you said, they told that man to put his hands behind his back. What if I literally had a broken shoulder? I literally had a broken shoulder, and I physically can't. It's not that I don't want to comply, but I'm physically unable to. And I tell you, I honestly, I cannot put my hand. I can't move it past this. What do you do then?
Like Patricia asked earlier, every situation is different. If you're dealing with someone who has a physical incapacity or handicap, we've arrested people in wheelchairs. We've arrested people with one leg. We've arrested people with one arm. We are equipped to deal with whatever the situation is, but every situation is assessed as it's going on.
But I mean, I can tell you that, but it doesn't mean you have to believe me. Is what my point is.
No,
and if I'm seriously like, I literally can't. What do you do?
But we will give you the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
If we're having a conversation as we are, hey, officer, I do want to put my hands behind my back, but I have a broken shoulder. Oh, really? Okay, we will deal with. We're not savages where we're going, oh, you're lying to us, we're going to handcuff you and break your shoulder even more. We've had people with arm casts get arrested. I've arrested people with stuffing drugs in their arm. I mean, and you have to just deal with that. I mean, you deal with each situation as it comes. We're not going to be insensitive to someone who has a physical ailment, a physical disability or anything like that. And sometimes people do lie to you.
Right.
You have to assess it as it's going. So I can't give you a general answer that,
yeah.
oh, yeah, we wouldn't
I just feel like
that.
you're different than most people,
Well,
like the videos we see.
Yeah. Go ahead,
No, I'll just say, I think we're trying to get specifics out of a ton of general general things going on, and it's just not possible.
No, because it's a fluid situation. It's a fluid situation.
Oh, I know. I just want to know if you could assess if somebody had a mental issue, was their actions different? That's all.
We do have people trained to deal with that, but sometimes those officers aren't available, so you have to deal with it. I've gone to many scenes, and I'm not CIO trained, but I am people trained. I am trained on how to talk to people and how to try to reason with people and how to, and I've said in my roll call to my officers, I said, you're all CIO officers. I said, you're all counselors, you're all psychologists, because that's what we deal with. In every scene, you may have to be a crisis intervention officer until the mental health officer arrives on the scene and keep that person calm if possible. And if they're coming at you, if they're cutting themselves, if they're hurting themselves or other people, we have to take police action. We have to. But if we can give that person space to calm down and give them some time to go through whatever it is that they're going through, we are trained to allow them to do that if possible. It's not always feasible. The situation you brought up with I'm sorry, what was it?
It's somebody that went to college with my daughter.
I don't know the specifics of what happened with that, so I can't say why the officers, it resulted in him dying.
Yes.
I can't address why did that happen, but I know that mental health is a huge issue these days, and not just in DC, but in all across the nation. It is I tell my officers every day in roll call, we will have an encounter with a mental health consumer. I can guarantee it, because that, and especially the area where we police, there's a mental health facility right on the corner, and they congregate there. So we're guaranteed to have at least one interaction every day. So
I definitely appreciate you coming, because you shed some light on a lot of stuff, and I think a lot of things sometimes, people live in the 2-second sound bites now, right?
Of course. I was about to say
we live in the era of TikTok, and where everything is caught in a moment, and there's very little context to.
It's usually after the fact.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Usually
So there's very.
You don't know what led up to that.
Exactly. So we have a question from a audience member who's also a Capitol Police officer. Sean, I'm going to murder your last name, brother.
Hike.
And Sean Hike.
He's Sean. Just talk about that.
Sean.
How you doing, Sean?
Okay. What up, brother?
Smack you later.
His question is, and like I said, he's also 25 years in the force. Curious to see his take on the media's coverage and the reporting on law enforcement. Do they have a responsibility, meaning the media, to be unbiased? And if so, are they living up to that responsibility? Nobody should know better than people like him, which is you, and I, which is him, who have worked in law enforcement in the district for 25 plus years.
Do they report it accurately and without bias? Or no, they do not. The police, in my opinion, and that's why I'm here, are not seen in a positive light, because positive news doesn't sell. We don't want to watch. The police officer ran in the building and he saved 5 kids from, an active shooter or he saved 5 kids from. We do want to hear the negative where the police officer pulled the guy over, he took him out of the car and he beat his ass and then he sent him on his way. We do that. People will tune in for that.
Well, that sells.
So no, the media serves the media. You know, the media does not serve the police department. They serve in the function of getting views, clicks, likes, whatever the situation may be. And are they responsible? Yeah, absolutely. I'm not gonna say all media outlets are biased or negative, but in the majority that I've seen, it's never positive. I've never seen a lot of positive news about the police I've never seen a lot of positive incidents or interactions with the community, and there's a lot of good that's done that is not shown. There's a lot of positive things that happen that police officers do on a daily basis. But that won't sell newspaper. I know we don't use newspapers anymore, but that's not.
Stop dating
Sunday paper, Grandpa.
Yeah.
Stop dating yourself, sir.
Right. That's not the news that people want to see.
I want to piggyback on that to ask about how that affects the morale, and because I joke about this, but I'm serious. I think if I were a cop, I would get in trouble because I get very heated, which is the reason I'm not one. I get very heated very easily, and people constantly questioning my motives to be out there would really piss me off. Yeah. And you got to control that, right? Because that is your job.
Self-control.
Yes. So how is morale, in your opinion, in your force, with the media coverage, as it is?
We accept that the media is what the media is. We know the reality, and we know our truth. So we're not concerned about what they report or what they don't report. So we know what we're dealing with. We know that they're not an ally. We know that the media serves the media. So if they happen to post something or give a footage on something that's great or that's good, it's rare. But we know more than likely I don't want to say out to get us. It's not that they're out to get us. They're out to report the negative as much as possible. And we already know that.
But advertising dollars.
But isn't the police force have some onus to spread that positive light on what they're doing for the community?
We try. We have what's called a public information officer.
Let's say the PIO officer.
We do have a PIO officer. And they are there to report on incidents when things happen. But a lot of times it's because it's an incident that has happened, and we need to. And I will say this, our current chief, Candid, I was a cadet with him. I've known him since he was 17. I was 17. We were both police cadets. He's not changed one bit. He's a pretty stand-up guy. And I don't agree with everything any police chief says or does, but his motto since he's taken the position has been transparency. And a lot of agencies are taking that position of transparency, and that helps with media relations. We are our own media when we